Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is a rock and roll Hall of Famer, a musician's Hall of Famer, a songwriter Hall of Famer, and many others. He's the organist, singer, and songwriter of the legendary Rascals, and he's about to release a book called Memoir of a Rascal and hit the road with former Monkey Mickey Dolenz. It's an honor to welcome Felix Cavaliere. Welcome, Felix.
Well, thank you.
So let's start with this book, Memoir of a Rascal. It's out March 22nd. And
Mhm.
I guess the first thing most people think when they hear you wrote a book is it's about time. Um, why was now the right time to do it?
Well, I'll tell you what happened in a brief summation. In 2012 and 13, the original group, the original Rascals,
Mhm,
we did a Broadway show called Once Upon a Dream, which was based on one of our
mhm,
album titles. And during that I guess publicity period, we did press conferences, and the four of us would be on stage, and they would ask questions.
mhm,
Everybody had a different answer. I said, "Wait a minute, hold on, slow down here a minute. Are you sure Custer lost that battle? It might not be now, because I guess the last person standing tells the story." So I said, I think it's important for me and my family and my fans and my brain and my
mhm,
sanity to just write down what I remember,
mhm,
and that's how it started.
mhm. And when you were writing the book and looking back at just some of those pivotal moments that were
Mhm.
not only your history but pivotal in the rock world itself. I mean, you were there for the rise and eventual fall of Jimi Hendrix. I
Right.
mean, and you write about that a little bit in the book, but what are your memories of Jimmy and working with him?
Well, I knew Jimmy prior to everyone else knowing Jimmy because of the fact that he was a sideman in groups like, for example, he was with Joey D. He was
Mhm,
with the Isley Brothers. He was with a few bands, and he was very shy in those days.
mhm,
And again, I highlight this in my book, but I mean, the Jimi Hendrix experience was almost like a different human because his story, which I'm sure has been documented. He had a tough childhood. He had a tough life, and I think that when he went over to England, and they meaning the guitarists of the day out there, the Jeff Becks and the Eric
mhm,
Claptons and Jimmy Pages, and of course the Chaz Chandler, who
mhm,
from the Animals, who kind of nurtured him and discovered him. They gave him an identity that is what the public knows, which is the Jimi Hendrix experience. But prior to that, Jimmy was a very quiet guy. But what people may not know is that Jimmy was a really wonderful guy. He was a great guy. He was a sweet man. He was really sweet, too sweet, actually,
mhm,
because like most of musicians and artists, you want to be liked. And he wanted to be liked to the point of where he made some decisions probably he shouldn't have made, hung around with some people he shouldn't have been around. But in a nutshell, he was. I was just happy to know him. He was a nice man.
mhm. Yeah, and in those early days of the Rascals, the four of you, yourself, Eddie Brigati, Gene Cornish, and Dino Danelli,
Mhm.
you guys were a gang. I mean, you were close, your families were close. In the book, you write about reassuring Eddie's mom that, you'd look after him after he was involved in a fatal car accident. Was it the pressure of success and those outside forces that eventually started tearing the four of you apart?
I think all of the above, and
Mhm,
besides outside sources, I came to find out years later that inside sources
mhm,
also caused that. But sometimes families can be detrimental to your health. For example, if you're on TV, if your group's on TV, and the camera focuses on the person who sings the song,
mhm,
and then one of your relatives says, "Well, how come they don't show you?
mhm,
How come it's always him?" Or those things, they cause problems that really shouldn't be there, because it really it was such a joy, having the wonderful career that we had. And seriously, it was wonderful.
Mhm. Yeah, and with the first few records, like many bands of the day, you guys did a lot of cover songs with a couple originals. And you and Eddie were primarily the songwriters. Was it a struggle for the record company in those early days to allow you to write your own material, or were you guys like, we're good with covers, and then started writing? How did that kind of come about?
Well, you have to go back to that time
Mm,
period. Prior to Beatles, Stones, Dylan, people did not write their own
mhm,
songs. I mean, they went to publishers and got songs. So when that started, it was a revolution. I mean, Love and Spoonful's another example. John Sebastian. Prior to that, nobody wrote their own songs. Also, in the years that we played clubs, which was not really years. I mean, in our case, we were only together 6 months before we had a record deal. I'm proud to say, but the clubs demanded covers.
mm,
It was not a choice. You didn't go there and say, "Well, I just wrote this song." They wanted basically to put liquor into people's
mhm,
glasses and sell tickets, and I understand it was a 21 and over audience. So when we were signed, all the Atlantic people and the other record companies who were interested heard were covers. They didn't hear any originals. However, as a result of that, our first record was written by two Motown writers.
mhm,
It was called "I Ain't Gonna Eat Out My Heart Anymore." The second record, which we also did not write, which was "Good Lovin',"
mhm.
was a number 1 million seller. Well, now the kind of like power map changes from these bunch of kids that now you got number one record behind you, so we want to write our own songs. So sure, the record company must have freaked out because I tell you what, like, are you sure? Can you do this?
Mhm.
Well, thank God we could do it because it's not easy. It's not easy following a million seller, in any
Yeah.
case, and especially when you're going to just try and start writing. I already had some songs, written prior to that I did on my own, but you know, it was a dare, it was a chance, and we were very fortunate.
Yeah, and it's funny because you guys were around at a time when music was changing so fundamentally. I mean, as you just said, from covers to writing, but also, around 67 or 68, things start changing from radio singles only to a deeper album as a
Correct.
whole. And you guys really navigated that, especially right between Groovin' and Once Upon a Dream. Did you sort of see what was going on around you and say, now is the time to put together a whole package of an album rather than just individual singles? Or did it just kind of happen naturally?
No, 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 no.
Mm,
You know, the amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, the ways that the Beatles influenced all of us
mm,
is astounding. When they came out with Sergeant Pepper, that opened a whole new world
mm,
of albums. Unfortunately, I don't really think that was ever really, really, fundamentally taken care of the way it should have been. Like the Who came out with Tommy, which became a Broadway show. You know, the whole concept of having a theme from top to bottom
mm,
in an album really, really, it sang to me because I think we, the American public, and the rock world, really lost something when the record companies didn't embrace that. Because it was like mini operas.
mm,
It was like instead of it being a 3 minute song, it was now an hour
mm,
song or however long your album took. The reason the record companies didn't embrace it is because they were looking for hits.
mm,
That's what they wanted. They could care less about a theme. But think about that Sergeant Pepper. Besides the fact that yes, they did have hits. What a great idea!
mm,
What a wonderful
mm.
concept, and I really wanted to be part of that. I did it with Once Upon a Dream. I did it to a degree with Freedom Suite. I also wanted to do it elsewhere. Like, for example, there was a movie, it was a science fiction book I really wanted to put to, music, which was called Dune.
Mhm.
Well, Dune has become a movie twice, and
Yeah.
the estate, the Herbert estate would not allow me to do it. But I saw that as a real,
Mm.
real, real musical opportunity.
Mm. Yeah, and it's funny now because all these years later, we're switching back, with Spotify and streaming. The album's going away, and we're going back to everything just being a single and there being no package. So
Well, you
I
know
suppose
who
that,
caused all that?
yeah,
There's good old Apple.
yeah,
Oh yeah, good old Apple did that with their iTunes. I mean, they changed everything.
yeah,
See, I mean, when you do an album, obviously you make more money than when you do a
mm,
single.
mm,
So everything changed, and boy, it's changed now. It's a whole new industry.
yeah. You know, One thing I always found interesting in your career, in the late 70s, you had a short lived band called Treasure,
Yes.
which featured future Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent alongside you. And while an amazing talent, Vinnie wasn't always the easiest guy to work with. What
Aha,
are
you
your
know that.
well, what are your memories of that record and that band?
Oh wow, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I mean, it's an interesting little story. I was living in Connecticut, and I was doing an album in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is where he's from. And I was doing an album for one of the Blood, Sweat, and Tears musicians. Fred Lipsius was his name. And we were doing was mostly instrumental, and I needed a guitarist. And here I am in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Not many connections that I have, but there was this studio owner. His name is Paul Lecca, Leka. I think he had some hit records. I can't remember the titles of them, but if you look it up, you'll find it. And he recommended this kid. And this kid came into the studio, and I was very impressed because to find a gem like that, in any town, doesn't
Yeah.
matter where it was, uh, and as I say, I had just signed with Epic Records, and I just felt like, look, why don't I try something? Boston was out, and I said, I'd like to try a guitar-oriented record. Of course, I don't know if that was the best career move, but you know, and I loved it. I mean, I had a young
Yeah.
drummer by the name of Jack Scarangella, and I had a bass player. I think he was a former Blood, Sweat, and Tears member as well, and it was just fascinating, and I still to this day some of the cuts on that album I think were unique. I mean, he really was good. And then from us, he went on to Kiss, and then I see you know him or you know of him.
Yeah.
A very interesting story. Talking about writing a book, he should write a book.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, well, I'm about an hour outside of Bridgeport here in Connecticut, so we've heard all the stories.
Yeah, well, they're all true. That's the problem.
Yeah,
But he
yeah,
was a good guy.
yeah,
He lives down here in Nashville now.
yeah,
And we finally kind of gotten back together to a degree. Although I was pretty angry at him for a while.
yeah. Now, the Rascals, you guys reunited for the Rock Hall induction in '97, and then again, as you mentioned, in about 2012 for the Once Upon a Dream shows that Steve Van Zandt helped put together. And I have to say, I saw those shows, and that was just
Oh,
one of the
great.
great live experiences I've ever seen. You guys were really amazing. And in his book, Steve's not very complimentary about that period and
Uh,
working with the band. A decade later, with some perspective now, what are your thoughts on that whole Once Upon a Dream period and what Steven tried to do?
well, again, I studied with a guru for many years,
Mm,
which I hope comes up in this conversation because
mm.
that's really the major part of my book. He told me if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. It was an experience. It was an experience that was really, I don't know, you try to understand people and human nature, and sometimes you just can't understand it, So yes, the interesting thing about it was the kind of reunification of the four of us. And that was to me the part that I would concentrate on from a musical point of
Yeah.
view. Prior to us getting together like that, we hadn't seen one another in many years.
Mm,
Certainly hadn't played together in many years. And at least at least two of the guys really hadn't been playing much at all.
Mhm.
So when we first started, which was in Portchester, it was a little rough. We did a lot of rehearsing,
Mhm.
and I didn't really like the way we sounded at all. But then after after a while, the magic came back,
Mhm.
and we sounded really good.
Mhm.
And that was fun, man, because there's something that when a group is successful, it's kind of like an all-star basketball team.
Mhm.
You know, that doesn't mean they're going to win the championship just because they got all-stars. You got to pass the ball to
Right.
one another. You got to, well, when that happens, you know, and it gels, it's really cool.
Mhm.
So if I have to say anything about that experience, it was the fact that for a short period of time, the Rascals were back in
Mhm.
terms of the music. It was great, and you could feel that there was this wonderful, wonderful symbiotic type of relationship that was like really, really special. And the rest of it, well, like I say, it was. I'm glad I got a chance.
Yeah.
For example, we worked in the same theater where South Pacific in Oklahoma
Mhm.
was. That was that was fun. It was interesting. I mean, hey, I'm trotting on the same stage where all this great music happened, and that was good. It was interesting.
Yeah, and you mentioned your time working with a guru, and that was definitely something I want to bring up. And what led you to search out something that eventually became, working with a guru?
Well, a lot of things, on a personal level, like basically, I had a lot of questions,
Hmm.
questions about, my mom's passing, when I was a young kid, questions about this crazy career that I had embarked on, I,
Hmm.
I said, wait a second, and I tell this story in the book also, but, my family was medical people. And he kind of told me, he says, "Yeah, you can go out and give it a shot being a musician, but let me tell you something. You see, I put this sign in front of my office, DDS. You
Hmm.
know, I'm a dentist until I don't want to be a dentist.
Hmm.
You better keep making hit records, dude, because otherwise you're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of friends that are what they call one-hit wonders.
Hmm.
And it's kind of sad in a way because like you're there and then you're gone.
Yeah.
Your 20s. Now you got hopefully a lot of years. What am I going to do now? You know? Well, I hate to see really people going through the trauma of trying to get back to where they were because chances are you're not. That's another reason I went to see him. I had many reasons to go see somebody to find out what was going on. We used to go to priests, we used to go to rabbis, we used to go to holy. This
Hmm.
man was brought into my life, and so I really took advantage of the wisdom to change the rest of my years.
Hmm. And it- do you feel that it's put you in a better place now than you would have been kind of navigating it on your own?
Unquestionably.
Hmm.
And I tell you, just on a single level, a physical level.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna be 80. I'm
Wow.
still rocking and rolling,
Yeah.
man. My body works,
Mhm.
and because of the yoga,
Mhm.
not only the physical yoga, the hatha yoga, but because of the mental yoga,
Mhm.
because of the kind of tranquility that he spoke, it taught us. I'm doing great. I mean, knock on wood. I can't say that about my ex
Yeah.
guys in the group. They're
Mhm.
not doing so great health wise.
Mhm.
Which is kind of sad. So I highly recommend this way of life. It's a way of life. It's not a
Mhm.
religion. People don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. They're not going to lose any of their balance. As a matter of fact, if you're a Catholic, you're going to be a better Catholic. I got news
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah.
Because what he teaches is mental, physical health, and of course the old connection to the
Mhm.
spirit above. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter which way
Yeah.
you go. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to have a nice, healthy life.
Mhm. And you talk about how, even coming up on 80, you're still rocking and rolling.
Yes,
You have a
sir.
bunch of dates coming up, with Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees, as well as with Felix Cavaliere's Rascals. And, you know, I assume you and Mickey have known each other for quite a while. How did you first get together, and what can we look forward to seeing on this tour?
Well, we crossed paths with the Monkees a number of times in the past. I mean, we did a lot of shows together, and the other guys. Peter Tork used to live in Connecticut. I think you know that he was a
Yep.
Westport
Mhm.
uh, resident, and Davy Jones. I've said it many times. I mean, he was one of the funniest guys you ever want to meet in your life. I mean, he could do all those wonderful accents that come from Scotland and Ireland, and he was a jockey as
Yeah.
well. He was a
Mhm.
really he was a really small rider kind of guy. Great guy. I did not know Mike
Mm.
Nesbitt as much as I would have liked to know him because, as you know, we just lost him.
Yeah.
And if people would take a look and see what he accomplished besides being, a performer with the Monkees, he was responsible for what we call MTV
Mhm.
in some great ways. He contributed to the video world. That's pretty cool. It's pretty astounding.
Yeah.
And then we have Mickey, who is a really funny guy.
Mhm.
Seriously. We've met many times, and we've done cruises together and things like that. And our people, our management, and our agencies decided, why don't we pair these people up and see what happens? My idea, seriously, is that look, I think it's time. Their music and our music, pretty happy music, positive. I think after what we're going through now and what we've been through with the COVID, I think people need to really smile and reminisce on positive things, and I think that's what's good about this tour.
Yeah, without a doubt. And as Mickey's the last of the monkeys, and you mentioned that your former bandmates, some may not be doing as well as you are health wise. Do you ever think that there's going to be one more time for the four of you, or is it done?
Well, I tried in 2019,
Mhm.
and I was not able to do it. As a matter of fact, what happened is I approached all of them, to see if you guys wanted to go out, just do 3 or 4 cities, just say goodbye to our friends in Hawaii and Los Angeles and New York, Chicago, and I couldn't do it. And what I did do was hook up with Gene Cornish, who was the only one that really wanted to do it. And unfortunately, he had a heart attack on the
Mhm.
stage,
Yeah.
and that was pretty eerie because we almost lost him at that
Yeah.
time. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be able to happen again. That
Mhm.
was our last shot, so to speak. And that was what it's. Oh my God, it's 3 years ago already.
Yeah.
Wow. So, we tried,
Mhm.
because I just think, a lot of people, the reason that I did that is because in Hawaii, where the Rascals were huge, a lot of the people who are now, grown up, remember, and they said, "Can you do it one more time, man? Because
Mhm.
we would love to feel that again." I couldn't do it.
Mhm. Well, we've been spending some time here with the legendary Felix Cavaliere. The book is called Memoirs of a Rascal. It's out everywhere March 22nd. You have signed copies available right from your website that people can get.
Yeah,
You'll
we should
be
tell them
hitting.
the website because it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's FelixCavalieremusic.com. Cavaliere.
Yeah. And
It's
like I said, signed copies are available there. The tour kicks off in April, dates with Mickey and dates on your own. Felix, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to do this. It's been a real honor getting to talk with you. Best of luck, and I hope I can catch you out on the road when you come up around this area.
Oh, I hope you can as well. I enjoyed speaking to you, Jeff, and take care of yourself. God bless, man.
You too, my friend. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.